Welcome to the Journey to Happy podcast, where you get concrete tools for mindset work, my best tips for lowering your anxiety. And you also hear funny and encouraging stories from me and others who have stories to share. Around here, you'll discover the easy way to stop overthinking, to get rid of self doubt, and finally embrace a calmer, more confident you. I am Olga, your host, a former therapist, a life coach, wife, blissfully an IVF mother, and a coffee lover. I'm excited that you tune in today, and I'm honored to be on the journey with you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Journey to Happy podcast. I've got an amazing guest that you won't believe how much I've been chasing her to come to the podcast, but I have been on a mission for a few months, just saying, can you please come to the podcast? And given she's always said yes, it's been a bit of a conflict with being a mom of two, one that is attached to her here because he's still very small. She runs two businesses. She's busy, okay? And so the fact that she's even here just warms up my heart, and I'm so excited that you guys are going to get to hear from her. Erin Girouard is her name, and I'm going to let her introduce herself in a moment. But I want to introduce her in the way I see her and why I want her to be in the podcast. She's a mom, she is a businesswoman, and she is a leader in the momhood community to show up very genuinely, to be who we are, the way we are, and just kind of like love our imperfect lives while we are at it, trying to grow. I think that Erin, you have been an inspiration for me. I remember just from day one, since I've met you, you've been an inspiration, but over the last year that I've seen you being so committed to yourself, to the women that you're coaching. And it has just, I look forward to your stories on Instagram, like, fuck, if Erin is moving, I really have to move today, in the best of ways. So Erin has become a big fan of moving. That's something that she's integrated lately into her life. And in her process and her own motivation, she's motivated hundreds of women, and she's brought, including me, many women to a journey of self-love, which I think is inspiring. And I'm so thankful that you're here, Erin. I won't go over more because I do want us to have a conversation, not just a monologue, me talking, you listening. But I wanted to welcome you into the podcast, and I'm so happy my audience gets to hear from you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Well, thank you so much for that. I have you can't see right now because we're virtual, but I have the biggest goosebumps all across my arms hearing that introduction. It's not often that you hear somebody speak about the way that they see you. So to hear that I've influenced you and impacted your life in even the smallest way means the world to me, because I think the absolute same of you. So thank you so much. Do this, but schedules and COVID and life have gotten in the way. So yeah, I am just a mom, and like you said, a businesswoman too. 4 years ago, I became the program director for Mommy Connections Ottawa. So we are a national organization across Canada, but for the purpose of Ottawa, we bring new moms together, and we really focus on building community, which is so important to me. So we have 8-week programs, and where all the same moms are together for the whole time. So you really have that chance to build really meaningful relationships with each other. And that's how we differ from like a drop-in, for example, because take the awkward out of meeting other moms. Cause like, I don't know if you've ever been that girl where you walk into, you go to the park or you go to like a drop-in center and you see all these women together, and they've already formed that kind of that alliance, that community, and you're just kind of the odd one out. It feels awful. Like you're like, I just want somebody to come over here and be like, hey, come join us. But that often doesn't happen. So we do it for you in Mommy Connections. And our kind of ultimate aim is to make sure that nobody ever feels that way. So we really try to create an inclusive environment. And we also introduce moms to all of the local resources that are out there for them. So when I was a new mom, I had no idea where to, seek resources. I didn't even know that there were things that I needed, like pelvic floor physiotherapy was a great example. I only learned about that because I went to a Mommy Connections class. So we bring in all these local experts that specialize in a mom or baby area, and they present what's going on to these moms. And so we talk about things like sleep, like mental health, like baby massage. We do, music. We do relationship discussions. We just basically get down to like the nitty gritty dirt of mom life, and we discuss it all. And I think that for me, this was so helpful because as a new mom 4 years ago, I had debilitating postpartum anxiety, undiagnosed at the time. I didn't know what was going on. It wasn't like textbook postpartum, like I was detached from my baby anyway. It was the opposite, where I like wanted to smother her because I just couldn't have her leave my side. I didn't want anyone to hold her. I didn't want to sleep without her. Like I had to be around this baby 24/7. And so I didn't know at the time that I had anxiety. I just knew what I was feeling in my heart and in my mind. And, my relationship was also struggling as a new mom, as it does. We've all been there. You have no time left for your partner at the end of the day. And furthermore, if you do have time left, you often just don't want to be touched. So I was experiencing all these massive highs and also massive, massive lows. And joining that program, I realized that there were 15 other women in this space who were feeling the exact same way as me. And that was, I don't want to say misery loves company. That's not what I'm getting at here. But what I found was the solidarity in how I was feeling, and the permission to feel this way was so validating. And so today, that's what I hope to bring to every single woman who joins me, is just a listening ear and a sounding board, and just validation that it's okay to feel this way. Like with social media, we're so bombarded with this like glamorized ideal of motherhood. You should have the perfect house and your Montessori toys and everything should be in place. And when we see this, we feel like shit. So I want women to come into my space that I've created and know that it's okay to be perfectly imperfect, like you mentioned before, right? It's okay to have a messy house. If I turn my computer and show you the picture that's in front of me right now, the mess that my kids have made, it's okay if you're not putting on gourmet meals. It's okay to, feed your kids chicken fingers sometimes. Like all of these things, it's okay. It's okay that you and your spouse, aren't getting along. I just want people to feel seen.
Oh, I love that.
That's what the program did for me.
And I think that you do that so well, by the way, and generally, like I think you show up that way. And I as a mom, as a coach of women who aim for perfection, and I'm trying to coach them out of that, I appreciate any other human who's trying to take the lead into just actually role model humanity. What is actually true about being human is to have those highs, those lows, those messy homes, and to normalize it, to validate it. I think that is powerful work you're doing with new moms. And if you're listening to this, you happen to be in Ottawa, you're a new mom, this is a great place for you to go check out Mommy Connections. All of Erin's contact info will be in the show notes. So head over there after you're done listening, and for sure connect. And if you're listening to this and you're not a mom of a new child or a new mom, I say keep this in mind for the moms near you who might just want to be a part of the community. And to answer your question, I have been that awkward mom who comes places and just like, hey, I don't know anybody. Nobody knows me. I want to get to know you. What's up? And it's not easy. Even when I've come to present to your group, I felt like, that is intimidating to meet a whole group of moms. And how do you even begin to? But once you're in the circle and you're sharing, you're like, oh my God, we're all the same. We're all normal. We are sharing this experience that nobody has done any training for. Exactly. And yet we want to master it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the job that we have the least amount of training for, and we're expected just to get it right. We're sent home with this tiny little beautiful being and just told to figure it out. And, obviously it's inevitable that there's going to be bumps in the road and that there's going to be hard times, and we're going to run into things that we just don't know how to navigate. We're humans, but I think as women we put so much pressure on ourselves just to get it right. And with that comes the mom guilt, right, that we've talked about so many times, that we kind of inevitably feel no matter what we do. And so I want women to know that that's normal. That happens.
I would have to subscribe to it. Yeah, I think these are really important conversations, Erin. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted to come into the podcast. I think that, I recently recorded a podcast called Marriage After Children with a colleague of mine who coaches moms who work full time. And her and I had a blast talking. And I've received so many messages from that podcast of people saying like, holy crap, thank you so much for normalizing. And you were mentioning having severe postpartum anxiety. And I think this is something that I experienced some anxiety postpartum too, very specific to my dogs. Actually, I couldn't have my dogs. Like anybody who knows me, I've got 3 massive dogs. It took me 5 years to make Mateo. So I had time to buy dogs for every 2 years I didn't get pregnant. I was like, all right, we'll just buy one more dog. In retrospect, I wish somebody had shown me a photo of the future and that I could see how annoyed I was going to get by having so many dogs while having a kid. But my point is that I had unexpected massive anxiety around my dogs and my baby. Like from all things I could have imagined I was going to experience postpartum, that was not one of them. Like everybody when I was pregnant was asking me, what will you do with the dogs? Because for those of you listening, I have a blue-nosed pit bull, a Rottweiler, and a Shar-Pei. They're like scary looking dogs, but they're sweethearts and beautiful dogs. And I wasn't afraid of them throughout my pregnancy. But postpartum, there was something there and unexplainable and heartbreaking to be honest. Like I felt mom guilt as a dog mom, if you can imagine.
I do imagine that because actually, Olga, just to normalize that feeling for you, we have often, usually around the 4th or 5th week in our programs, we talk about relationship after baby and not necessarily just the downfall of the relationships. They inevitably change. And sometimes that means they've changed for the better. But oftentimes it is for the worse. And almost in every single class, somebody brings up the change of relationships with their pet.
It's insane. I'm so glad you brought that up. It's massive. And so in my case, I was terrified of them to the point, Erin, that I would break into tears, full panic. You would think that something horrible just happened to the babies when I heard the dogs walk into the house from being outside.
Yeah.
And the reason I would like for us to talk about a little bit of postpartum anxiety is because we did agree we were going to talk about the importance of the connection of mind, body, and soul for moms. And I am a mental health, professional. I want to say I've retired, a former therapist. And I feel that there is so much information for pregnant women with regards to postpartum depression. Mm-hmm. But I was shocked to see postpartum anxiety. I was so ready for postpartum depression. I know the symptoms. I know what to do. I warned my husband about it. If you see me with A, B, C, or D, this is what we're going to experience. But so little mention was about anxiety postpartum. And the more I talk to new moms, the more I realize that is very common. And because we don't talk about it so much, new moms, people around new moms don't really know what to do with postpartum anxiety. So I know you've come a long way. You've had a baby 4 years ago and you've recently had one that's just turned 1. Mm-hmm. What has been the difference for you in the 2 pregnancies, not so much the pregnancy, in the postpartum, having had experienced severe anxiety after 1? How did you manage to still make the choice to make another baby, to go through another pregnancy? Did your experience during first postpartum allow you for a better experience second postpartum? And what do you currently do to kind of manage, hormonal, post-hormonal, and all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Such great questions. And I think for starters, I do think that sometimes it's just one of those things that happens, and just because you've had it with your first doesn't guarantee that you will have it with your second. But certainly I was much, much, much more aware going into my second pregnancy to be watching for it. Right. So one of the things that I did very early after Finley was born was I couldn't get off the couch to go to bed. It felt like my bedroom was this unsafe zone, and to sleep in my actual bed felt so scary. The feeling that you have explained surrounding your dogs, That's the feeling that I felt when it was nighttime and I was supposed to go into my bedroom. And like, it's completely unexplained. And you know what? It's like the definition of anxiety. It's this irrational fear. But I just could not do it. And I wish that my husband or the people around me would have taken that and recognized, oh my God, like something is really happening here. But instead they were just like, okay, she wants one more night on the couch. Right. But like there was a bigger problem. Like it was, you know, and so having had that experience, and then ultimately the sleep deprivation got so real and so severe that I was hallucinating. And so obviously that contributed to my anxiety as well. Like I hallucinated a person sitting at my dining room table in the middle of the night. God. I laugh now, but it's very much not funny. No. And there was nobody there. It was a plant, but I was so sleep deprived because my anxiety would prohibit me from going to sleep. And also my baby didn't sleep longer than 45-minute stretches. So all in all, like we just didn't have a plan in place on how to achieve sleep and how to properly nourish my body and how to move my body and the signs to recognize, and how my partner could have kind of stepped in and taken a little bit more control and saying like, this is a problem, we need to get help. We were just so new at, and once again, it boils back down to the fact that like we have no training for this job, and we focused so much on the birth and how we wanted the birth to look, and 0% on what the aftercare was going to look like. So going into the pregnancy with Carson, I tried for over a year to conceive him with a loss in between. And I feel like there were a lot of reasons for him being born at the time that he was. And I think one of them was that my body needed the 3-year break to really be introspective and like look at what happened to me and like look at how I dealt with situations and look at how my marriage almost broke down, and like reevaluate everything, right? And just like, okay, what am I going to do to make sure that that doesn't happen again? Mm-hmm. And one of the things was that I was open, if need be, to go on medication. Mm-hmm. I was more prepared with my partner in the way that like, okay, this is what happened last time. These were the signs. If you see this, I need you to tell me, right? Because we don't always realize it within ourselves.
No, yeah.
And also talked more to the people around me. But because we had Finley already and she was 3, we made a bigger plan for what the care was going to look like after. You know, she was going to be in daycare. I was going to be hiring a postpartum doula to come in and support me and help with the, you know, the housework and the cooking and the cleaning. We had meals prepared well in advance. My husband was going to take time off work. Like we really made this huge, massive plan. And then COVID hit. Nothing went according to plan because we had Carson, and 4 days later, everything shut down. So the idea of hiring a postpartum doula, non-existent. And, you know, my daughter was evicted from daycare because they shut down too. So she was at home. So it really happened that it started to creep back up. And it's to the point where actually Frozen 2, the movie, premiered simultaneously to everything shutting down. And when I hear the music of Frozen 2, I feel like I have some like PTSD side effects where I get really triggered because it reminds me of the early dark days of having my second baby and the global pandemic hitting.
Yeah.
So immediately I knew like something needed to give. I was sitting over my kitchen counter one night and I ate a full coconut cream pie, a full like family size pie to myself. And I think I polished it off with like 2 or 3 glasses of wine. And I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and I said, this is not the mother that I want to be. This is not the woman that I want to be. This isn't who I am. This is something taking over my brain, something taking over my body, but it's not me. And I reached out to a woman online who was like vibrant and boisterous and just like living her best life despite this pandemic. And I was like, I want what you have.
What are you doing? Why are you miserable, gaining weight and just drinking your life away in the pandemic?
Yeah, give me it. And so I started to work out. And I've never worked out in my life. I was always active before kids, but like never, you know, I never had a plan in place. I never followed a program. I would be like really like a self-proclaimed couch potato as far as like the last 4 years of motherhood went. But within working out, it forced me to also clean up my act as far as like what I was putting in my body. Because I was like, I'm not going to be doing all this work physically and then just eating, full pies. Like it's counterproductive. And so I started to take my nutrition a lot more seriously, and I gave up drinking for a while. And little by little, every day, it started to improve. And within like a couple of weeks, I felt this like mental clarity that I'd never felt before. I felt happier than I'd felt in years. I felt more in love with my partner. I felt sexier and more willing to engage in sex with him, because like up until that point, our sex life was not very exciting whatsoever. And it was just like all these small changes were happening. And before I realized it, like I didn't have that same anxiety, that like impending sense of doom surrounding this global pandemic. It felt better than ever, really.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking like couch potato, self-proclaimed couch potato woman who owned a business supporting women, who is just giving birth, who's feeling shit, my plan did not go as planned. And not only did my plan did not go as planned to support me and my mental health. Now there is this really dark, scary pandemic nobody knows anything about. That sounds terrifying. But how do you go from that to I'm going to work out?
I know. If you had told me, Erin, a year and a half ago, like you're going to start to love this, you're going to do this, I would have laughed in your face, because for years, my sister-in-laws had been doing these programs and working out, and like they would ask me to join them and I'd be like, no, thanks, I'm good. And then I'd go over and eat like 5 egg McMuffins while they were getting fit. And like, it just was never a part of my life. But I knew like, I don't have a choice here. Like I have to do something to take the steps to be the mother that I want to be. And drinking myself into feeling better is not going to work. And like there is alcoholism in my family as well. And I did not want to follow in those footsteps because it's been damaging to my own life. And I knew that I didn't want to become obese, and I was very much like heading in that direction. And so I just, one day I said, like, this is the day that I'm going to start. And I did it. And halfway through the workout, I remember feeling like, screw this. This is so fucking hard. Excuse my language. It's so hard. I hate this. I'm miserable. I can't breathe. My lungs hurt. I'm quitting. And then I was like, just give it one more minute. And I gave it one more minute, and then it was done. And I was like, oh my God, I did it. I finished that whole thing. And like that tiny sense of accomplishment fueled me to do it again, because I thought, when the hell was the last time I've done something for myself? Like as a mom, we are so quick to take care of every other person in our life and put the needs of every other person before the needs of our own. I honestly could not remember the last time that I had done something just for me. And I had not remembered the last time that I felt like I accomplished something, and not like tasks at work, right? Because we do those every day. You always are accomplishing something if you have a job, like that's inevitable, but accomplishing something that's going to better you. I was like, oh my God, I had this beaming sense of pride. Like it was a feeling like I hadn't experienced in years. And I thought like, well, if I feel this good now, like, what am I going to feel like if I finish these whole 21 days?
And like, I give you all my, I'm for a loss of words, but like claps for finishing a 21 days doesn't sound long, but holy crap, try to stick to one program for 21 days. You're like, I wanted to give up after day one. Like,
for sure. And especially when you're like, a tired mom and you have a baby nursing, or you're feeding a baby around the schedule, it's just, there's so many reasons to not do it. But like I said, just that feeling of waking up every day and doing something just for me that I knew, felt small in the moment, but ultimately was going to pay off in the long run. Like I knew how important that was. And I knew I don't feel like doing this right now, but when I'm done it, I'm not going to have regretted it. And that kept me going.
I want to know, I want to like just come back to one thing you said, because I coach women and I feel that this is something I hear a lot. I don't remember when was the last time I did something for myself. And I just want to understand in your brain, how did you think working out was doing something for yourself? Because what I also hear women say is like, oh, well, if I'm going to have time for myself, it's like, it's not working out. Like we don't always necessarily, and I'm not here to coach people like go work out, that's the way. But I will say that that has been an instrumental part of me managing my mental health, my emotions, my existence. I've recently had a loss, and the best thing I did was to go and work out while I was really angry for my loss. And immediately I had that feeling you said, you know, one thing I will never regret, a workout. Like, I don't know, just it's a sensation of feeling alive, of taking care of myself, of saying to me, like, you count, I love you, I see you. How did you make that connection? And do you find that as well? Like, old Erin would have never thought, when her sisters-in-law were inviting her to work out, that she would have never thought like, oh, this is something to do for me, but it felt like more work. And you're like, don't you see my list of things to do? Like, what would you suggest to do a workout?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I also want to just say that I'm really sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
I didn't know, and my heart is very much with you. But I think that like my definition of doing something for myself before this had been kick my feet up and watch Netflix, because at the end of the day, I've poured my heart and soul into taking care of my kids and doing the housework and working and, trying to be present for my partner as well. Like we've given and given and given so much that you're like, YOLO, I'm going to sit on the couch and have a glass of wine and watch Netflix, and this is going to be for me. But like, at the end of the day, like I said, that's not getting to where I want to be as far as, a professional, a mother, a wife. Like sitting on the couch and watching reality TV is fun sometimes, but like when that's your habit and that's your release and that's your vice, like it doesn't add anything to your life, and it wasn't adding anything to mine. And I thought, like, I want longevity. I want to be there for my kids long-term. And I also don't ever want to be a burden on them. Like I want to be that grandma someday that, can throw my grandkids around in the pool and like gets down on the floor and plays with them. Like I really want to be that for them. And I remember one day in the early days, I was carrying Carson up the stairs, and Finley asked if I could carry her too. And I tried to pick them both up and I couldn't do it. And I was like, oh my God, I can't even carry both my babies. Like, how have I let this happen? And I'm just getting like choked up even just thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And so like every day that I moved, and like I said, doing something for me in the greater scheme of things was doing something for them, because I was benefiting, that I was, feeling more confident, feeling less tired, losing inches, and my clothes were fitting better. And like I said, I had a higher sex drive, but my kids were benefiting because of all those things too. And as moms, like we're so quick to do something when it benefits our kids and less quick to do it when it benefits us. But in this case, it was both.
It was all. And I think I remember, and I still am amazed by that, because when I was breastfeeding, I felt like a cow, like, yes. Literally, on demand. I did not enjoy this experience. I know it's beautiful to some women, and I honor that. And in some instances was absolutely beautiful, especially that I appreciate so deeply the gift of motherhood and like the gift of my body and feeding my babies. It's amazing. But physically, it was not my thing. Okay. I was sweating buckets, my boobs hurt. Like, I don't know. I not for me. The thought of working out with those boobs, I don't think so, or doing anything for that matter. Like, I just wanted to not, like, almost like just fast forward that stage of my life. And I remember when you started working out, because your son is just turned 1. And I was thinking, like, Jesus, how is she making this work? And it was in watching you do it that I thought, it's mindset, and I think I had never been a mindset coach. This is embarrassing to say, but I had never really made that connection for sports, for movement, how this movement was a matter of mindset. I think I had identified myself as mom body. And it's not about so much about the body, but like what I fell for this trap of like mom lifestyle. And so, yeah, it was more like I slow down, your body changes, you don't move as much as you do, you don't have time for yourself. Like I was describing to all of these beliefs that, first of all, are not even part of my personality. Like that's not who I am. And I'm an active person who absolutely loves taking care of herself. So seeing you really sparkle in me the desire to maybe want to do something movement wise, despite the fact that I was a mom and had very little time. I run now 2 businesses, and I understand like the constraints of time, and having added mindset to movement and not making it seem like it's more work for me, but rather it's actually it's what makes me be able to do work. You talk about sex drive. I find that is definitely something that while you're cultivating happy hormones in exercise, that has happened. But to me, the greatest benefit to me and to my family has been my energy. Like I am not a mom. And that was my main motivation, actually, because this is a funny story, but I went to the park. I was new to this neighborhood and I went to the park. Mateo was a tiny, tiny infant. And I saw these moms at the park with toddlers. And not only did they look like they didn't want to run after these kids, they also said it 5 million times while I was there. And I was there for a tiny period of time. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. Don't run. Mommy's tired. Like just tired was the word, the theme. And I remember thinking to myself, in no judgment to them, but to me, like, oh my God, I don't want to be a tired mom. Like nothing wrong with being tired, but tired all the time. And so to me, that's been the greatest gift that actually, Erin, I have to thank you for, because seeing you do the work motivated me, moved something within me to do the work for me. Right. The getting up in the morning, not crazy times like you do. I have to say, you guys, she posts things that says she works out at 3:45 in the morning. And in my mind, I was telling Erin, in what good conversation somebody suggests that, and somebody else is like, great idea. And it's not only one, there's like 5 of them who do this. It's Hi friends, I'm interrupting you to personally invite you to join my new Reset Your Mindset 12-week coaching program. It is 12-week to go from fear to courage and finally to take inspired action. We see the world as we are, not as it is. Let that sink in. Working on having a complete mindset reset can help you see things differently, to see things as they really are and not as your mental drama tells you they are. Raise your hand if time after time you have found your mental drama taking over you, your peacefulness with worry, with limiting beliefs, with unexplained fears that keep you not just from your full potential, but also from being genuinely happy. So I don't know you, but I believe life is too short to not be happy. And that's why I've created a 12-week program that can help you learn all the tools to properly learn how to reset your mindset, to go from all those things, that thoughts that make you live life in fear, to feeling courageous, to having mental clarity, to walking away from feeling blocked, to being happy and confident. So imagine you're feeling confident in your ability to do things that used to keep you paralyzed in fear. Imagine you trust your inner voice because it is confident instead of full of anxiety. Imagine you're 100% in control over your emotions and thoughts. You have now unlocked your motivation to get things done for real. Your thoughts finally match your dreams and aspirations, not your fears and what ifs. If you are feeling this is a calling for you, if you want to try life coaching for a short period of time with an investment of $1,200 for the 3 months, you get weekly calls with me, you get weekly mindset videos. We start September 13th and we go all the way to mid-December. Sign up and let's finish this year strong. The application link is in the show notes, so head over there, apply, and let's see if you're a good match and get you into this program?
That's all. Yeah. To clarify, we were meeting up, the other girls in our community and I were meeting up specifically to watch the sunrise that day. So we weren't waking up to work out. We were waking up to meet on the beach and have a coffee and sit with each other. So there was a little bit of a difference there. But yeah, normally I do work out at around 5:30 or 6, because that's the only time in the day that I can get it done. And like, I can tell you, like we all do, oh, like I just don't have time. I have the kids and I have a job and I have life and I have to get dinner on the table and then I do bedtime. We can make an excuse as to why our day is full, or we can literally do an audit of our time and say, this is how I'm spending my day. Where can I fit this in? And for me, like the actual only possible time is first thing in the morning. And also for me, I like to do that because then it's just done. It's out of my way. It's off the to-do list. And it's not just like one other task that I have to get done that's like looming around all day that you're kind of like thinking about and dreading. And you're like, oh, I have to get this in. It's like you wake up, you go, and then it's over. But
and I was gonna second that. Like to me, I was so for the longest time I prioritized sleep because my son was waking up several times at night, and so
yeah,
in the morning was not a better time for me to work out, and I still managed. Like I remember posting like it's 10:30 at night. I did my workout, and then I realized, crap, I can't sleep because I'm now so energized. But for a long time, I prioritized sleep in the morning. It was what I needed to do.
Absolutely.
And eventually I transitioned into exercising in the morning, and I can say that there is something incredible about taking care of you before you take care of anybody.
Yep.
Like before my son wakes up, before I open my Instagram to see, or my Voxer to coach my clients, I am in my garage, which is my gym, and I am moving. And that to me has become such a beautiful self-care routine. And like I was saying, it gives me the energy, sets the tone for my day. Like no matter what's happening, how shitty my day is, it's such a great commitment to me. And I feel that by doing that, I'm setting the tone for the day. And what I was saying is giving me energy. Like,
yeah,
rare. Like I just went from a whole bunch injecting hormones into my body, and I felt tired for the first time in a while. Like, oh yeah, imagine this feeling every day. Like this is not a way for me to go about life. I do not want to be tired.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's that, like I said, that feeling that I felt that first day, like, oh my gosh, I just accomplished something for myself. You get to have that feeling before it's even 7:00 in the morning.
Yes.
So, like you said, if the whole rest of the day just goes to hell, at least you've still done something that you can feel really proud of. And like, I'm not going to lie, like it was damn hard in the beginning. And like that voice inside your head creeps in. That's like, oh, just, give up, the self-doubt and like the self-limiting belief. Those were everywhere. And honestly, sometimes they still are around, but and people always say, if you just stick with it, it becomes an addiction. It becomes a part of your life. And I was like, okay, never believed it in a million years. I was like, that's just not in my blood. That's just never going to be me. But it's true. It becomes this like second nature, this instinct, because you're working towards that greater feeling, that feeling of pride and accomplishment. And, then what we're really lucky for is that like this year I built Every Effort, which is a community of women who are all doing these programs together. So there's like 395 of us, most of us being Ottawa local now. And most of us are moms. And so on the days that motivation is lacking, I can open up our group and see, Ashley with 5 kids who's just checked in saying she got it done. And then I'm like, well, what's my excuse?
Yeah.
There's always going to be stuff that gets in the way. Like there's always going to be stress and jobs and kids and life and, sickness and all the things, but you have to just find a way to make it work despite those things. Cause you could literally have an excuse every single day as to why you can't do it.
And what what I find inspiring is that it's not, it's shifted my mind from this is selfish to this is responsible. And so the excuses are less common for me because I've realized that, oh my God, I just show up. Like what I care the most is about being a good mom and a good wife. Guess what? This is what gives me permission to be that. I was recently talking to my sister-in-law who gave birth, I want to say 9 months ago, or about 9 months ago, and to her 3rd child. And she bought a Peloton bike, and she has been on her bike most days. We get, we have Apple Watches, so we're on each other's case about healthy competition. Who's doing what? And this shocked me. She said, you know what? I haven't lost any weight, like any of her baby weight. I've built muscle, but what I've realized has been so impactful is that I have so much more patience for my children since I started working out.
Yeah.
I was like, right? Like there is something about you prioritizing you that makes it responsible for you to do it. Yeah. Because the benefits, not only are they physical, like you talk about living longer. That is my greatest, that is the reason I move. I have one child and I want to be for as long as I can next to him and aware and mobile. And I dream and wish to hold my grandchildren and play with them. And that's my greatest motivation. And there's one way of doing that, taking care of me. And only one person can do that. Yeah, me. Exactly. So for the moms listening to this, thinking like, oh, great, another podcast that tells me to go exercise. I want you to think beyond that. This is a mind, body, soul connection. Like what you might look as a workout, a weight loss plan, like forget about that. This is about nourishing and loving you and training your mind and your behavior to take care of you first and foremost. Mask goes on you before it goes on your dependents. Yes. We need strong moms. And
yeah, you're absolutely right. And I wanted to just comment quickly, Olga, on something that you said earlier, was that like mindset of being a mother, right? I feel like when we become a mom, like I've mentioned before, everybody else's needs become more important than your own. And to me, I had this like, I can't do this because I'm a mom. I can't go there because I'm a mom. I can't wear that. I'm a mom. Like, oh, I could never. I'm a mother now. And there were so many things that like, because I'm now a mom, all of a sudden I couldn't do. It's like I put myself into this box that like, I am a mom and therefore I'm not all these other things. But it's like doing this and building this community and learning from myself this year. And like really, in addition to working out, like I also take personal development really seriously. And I'm now reading those types of books because I want to work on my mind as well as my body. I've learned that like, we are so much more than just a mom. And I think like one of the saddest things for me would be if my mom told me I lost my identity because I had you, right?
Imagine that. Yes.
Imagine.
Oh my God, yes.
How would you feel? And so I look at, my kids, but especially my daughter, and I'm like, I want her to go on. And if she wants to have a family, great. If she wants to get married, awesome. But if she doesn't, that's great too. But if she should, be blessed with children one day, I want her to be true to who she is outside of them. And I was so much more than just a mom. I was a scuba diving instructor. I was a world traveler. I was a friend. I was an avid yogi. I had a sense of adventure like nothing else. I had a zest for life and for food and for trying new things and, learning new cultures. And then like all of a sudden I put myself inside this box as a mother. I didn't even dress like myself anymore. I dressed like this like picture of a mom. And so the big like mind-blowing experience that was a byproduct of starting to move my body was learning that like I still am so much more than just that. But in the process of kind of realizing those things, I am a better mother, which is just crazy.
Yeah. And I want to say, what did you say that I was going to add to it that I thought was so, I'm just going to invite moms to kind of revisit who they're identifying as, and if that is who they are. Like just take a moment here to check in with you and see if who you've like accidentally fallen into being because of being a mom, and whether that's a new mom, a mom to a teenager, I don't care where in your stage of motherhood you are, who are you identifying as? And is that in alignment with your values, with what you want out of life? And I remember, we are modeling to our children every single day how to take care of others. How? By taking care of them, right? Like we show them what making lunch for somebody looks like, cleaning the house, wiping their mouth, helping grandma. Through all of this, we just show them how to take care of others. But what are we currently doing to teach them and role model to take care of themselves? And I think that Erin, that's something so nice that you thought about. When my child grows up, I don't want them to think like, I'm the reason my mom didn't go to school. My mom didn't pursue her career further. I'm the reason my mom didn't get to be who she wanted to be. Like, that's not the story I would like for my son to say and share. I want him to know that he was my why to become even better at being who I was, more authentic, more unapologetically me.
Yeah. And I can look at like the future when we talk to our kids about the pandemic. Oh, now I'm like starting to cry again. But like, I'm so proud of the fact that I can say like, Carson, I had you. And, you know, he's always going to hear the story of how he was born into a pandemic, because that's just what all these 2020 and 2021 babies are going to hear for the rest of their lives. But I can look at him and say, like, I had you and things were not great in the beginning, but I quickly got it together for you. And because of you, I became the best me.
Mm.
And, you know, despite the world like ending, I was strong enough to recognize that I needed a change and I needed to find myself. And like, I'm really proud of that. And it is because of him, because I had this tiny little newborn who would look up at me, you know, during sleepless nights. And I said, like, I can't be an obese alcoholic. Like, I can't, I won't let myself. And so, yeah, like I'm really proud that someday I'm going to get to tell him that story about how, like, for me, you know, despite like everything in the world being terrible and people dying and horrible things happening, like, I was able to take control of my life. And I don't know necessarily that it would have had the same outcome if he hadn't have been born. And so, and on another topic, I feel like he was born, you know, I said in the beginning of this, like, I feel like he was born at the right time for a few reasons. I feel like another one of those reasons was this year, new moms needed more support than ever and more connection than ever, even though it was virtual. And I think like having a baby and being able to stand in solidarity with all of the moms who've experienced a birth this year was vital for Mommy Connections, and also for every effort, because I was able to say, my heart feels what your heart feels, you know?
And I just want to add to this, Erin, that in your process of you looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, you know what, I'm going to love myself. In times when I have every reason to just hate and, you know, let all the excuses be very reasonably, right? Because it's pandemic. I'm a new mom. Like, you had all the right conditions to be taken by the excuses of why you're not taking care of you. You decided to do something for yourself. And what I want everybody to know is that Erin didn't have 400 people in her Facebook group. Erin hadn't inspired 400 people. She had just had enough energy to inspire herself to instigate change. And in doing so, she shared her story on Facebook, like randomly, like, okay, guys, this is me and this is what I'm trying to, and it's fucking hard. And I'm just going to try to do it because I don't want to be an obese alcoholic mother. And in doing that, she showed us and she instigated the same kind of feeling that we all needed to feel. What I felt was like, I don't want to be a tired mom. And like, although I didn't think I was at risk of becoming obese or alcoholic, I had the risk of ignoring and neglecting my needs. And I also chose not to do that. And not only did you, Erin, by choosing you, I'm sure you had no idea that you were going to be creating this kind of impact on other people that I have personally seen what they've done with their life. And I'm not just talking about weight loss, it's just life-changing scenarios.
Exactly. Like I said, you know, marriage has gotten better. Just lives have improved. And I honestly didn't know that by sharing my story, I would have that impact at all. And I'm so grateful that other women felt inspired to join me. And like, I will not stop, you know, sharing my journey and telling the ugly truths about where I was and where I sometimes still am. Like, I'm not perfect and I'm not so, you know, fixed, so to speak. Like, I still have dark days and dark moments and struggles and challenges like all other women do. But I'm never going to stop sharing that, because I never want another woman, especially another mother, to feel alone. And I want every single person to know that change is possible, no matter what your situation is in life.
Erin, and you said you've become self-growth junkie. You didn't use those words, but it's more like to self-growth, and that you're reading books. And I'm sure you're being coached by somebody. And I also want to highlight that That's what happens when she decided to just love herself. She decided to invest in books, in coaching, in like, hey, how do I even give myself more? Which I think, when will you ever imagine that doing a workout once a day will have such a great impact in your mind, in your overall existence? And so, Erin, I just want to close this episode asking you to share one of the best books you've read so far that has.
Oh my gosh. Well, I started really, really light with my personal development reading because I had like never believed in that before. I mean, like these self-help books, right? I'm like, if these things work, why do we still have like a culture of people with so many problems? Why can't we just go to Indigo and buy a self-help book and, be cured? But I realized that like the most important thing in life is the never-ending pursuit of knowledge. And so we're never going to be completely fixed. We're never going to be perfect, but we always need to work on ourselves. We always can use the work. And so, and like, even, in our marriage, like our marriage can always be better. We can always learn ways and strategies to improve it. We can always learn strategies to become a better, more patient parent. Like, so, I mean, I think I had like a really closed off mindset before, and that like, well, I don't need that because it's not going to fix me. Well, you're never going to be fixed. So you need to read. So I started with Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis, and I loved it because she spoke like a real woman. Like she just spoke like, you and I are having this conversation, and it was really, really meaningful to me to just listen. It basically focuses on all of the lies we tell ourselves. And every chapter is the lie, and like, what is the lie? And so like, I'm not good enough. Like, I'll never be that mother. And then she kind of like talks about how we can crush that self-limiting belief. And every lie that she said, I'm like, oh my gosh, I say that about myself, so it really felt like it spoke to me. But as time has gone on, two that stand out are Think Like a Monk. I love Jay.
I love him.
I love that book. And like I said, when I talked about like the never ending pursuit of knowledge, like really that's what that book taught me, was that like we can always learn, and we can always, work on ourselves, and we should always be working towards learning more. But most recently I'm reading There's No Plan B for Your A Game. And I love it. I love it very much. Basically it goes into talking about making a declaration to be the best at something, and then working towards being that in like everything that you do in your life. And so it speaks to me because I do now want to be the best at so many things. And so right now the chapter that we're focusing on is dropping the areas in your life that don't serve your mission towards becoming the best.
Love that
thing. Yeah. And so like I mentioned earlier, like giving yourself a time audit, like if you're sitting there watching, Keeping Up with the Kardashians for 2.5 hours every night, like what could you do instead that would, steer you on the path towards becoming the best that you want to be? It's a great book.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest that everybody does read that book. I'm going to, and I have to say I haven't had time for TV for like 7 years.
I know, me too this year.
People tell me all the time, like, have you watched? I'm like, don't even waste your time. Like, don't, like, I do not. And when I do, I watch the reliable shows that I watch time after time, because I don't want the unpredictability of what I don't know. Like, if I'm going to watch something, it's going to be Seinfeld because it's going to guaranteed make me laugh, and that's what I want to do. But I do absolutely love this. Personal growth can come in so many different ways, guys. I'm sure that that's why you're listening to this podcast. I want to encourage you to find the time. Get out of this mindset that you don't have time, because especially if you are a mom, like, get out of there. You can. We've done it. Many women have done it. We can do it all. We can have it all. We get to decide. And so I just hope that you find these podcasts empowering, to say the least. And that if you want to hear more about Erin's story, follow her on Instagram. She's a great follow, I find. It will keep you on your toes. Every morning you can count on a workout story. And you're like, again? You're doing it again?
Stop showing up. You said something just now that I want to touch on before we close. And in the book, No Plan B for Your A Game, he just said actually this morning, and as I was reading this passage, he said, you don't need to add more time in the day. How many times have you, Olga, said in your life, or maybe myself even has said, oh, I wish there were more hours in the day. He says, You don't need to add more time in the day. There's already enough time in the day. You need to drop things in your day to create the time.
I got it. And so every woman I coach, I ask her, I need you to create three lists for me. What are you going to trash? What are the things that are taking away from you that you no longer need? Trash them. What are you going to treasure? Because if you don't do that, like these are the things that you love doing. Like I treasure my coaching time. I will never delegate that. Mm-hmm. And what are you going to delegate? Mm-hmm. What are things that need to be done, but they don't need to be done by you. Mm-hmm. And so your window of time freedom begins with that list, my friends. So hold on to it. Erin, I want to bring you back. And what I would love is to bring you back with other women who have experienced transformations like the ones you have. And we can just have a whole conversation together as well. That will be, I think, so empowering to do. And that, like, we can have maybe more book suggestions and other things that we have each done to help us implement self-care routine as an everyday routine. I, like you, feel that this has helped me manage my anxiety to the point that, I've had a really painful life experience with my last round of IVF, and it didn't steal my sleep. It didn't take away from me. I still went to love and respect myself because when I needed myself most, and that comes from a routine of self-care. So that's my best wish for every single one of you listening, to get into loving yourself a little bit more. I'm going to have to close it here. Erin, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved having this conversation.
And thank you for coming in. And all of Erin's contact info is in the show notes. So head over there and follow her. Bye now.